Thanks to Benedict for details in sport. We've got lots of things coming your way this morning here on the AM show. But let's talk about our agenda for today. It's an education scholarship that dates back to Ghana's colonial era, and it was meant to bridge the education gap between the North and the South. Though for many years, it has provided the opportunity for people in Northern Ghana to get secondary school education. The Northern Special Scholarship Scheme has virtually been hanging by the thread for at least the last 10 years. Today on JoyNews agenda, which focuses on the free senior high school policy, JoyNews' Upper East correspondent Albert Sori looks at how the Northern Special Scholarship Scheme, which was spearheaded by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, has been implemented over the years and the lessons that can be drawn from it for implementation of the NPP's free senior high school policy.
The idea for the Northern Special Scholarship Scheme was conceived in the roadmap to Ghana's independence. According to retired educationist Robert Ajeni, elders in Northern Ghana at the time were unwilling to endorse self-government because they felt that the colonial government had adopted policies that made the northern part of the country to lag behind the southern sector in terms of education. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah therefore introduced the policy to help bridge the education gap between the North and the South using seed capital from the colonial government.
So the proposal, which the Queen agreed, was that they will put some substantial amount. They're saying about 30 million pounds. It's in the archive. If you go, you'll find it. And give to Nkrumah. But at first, the Queen wanted to keep the money there, supervise the work of the accelerated development in education so that the North can now go along with the South. And this is what the money was to be used for. Number one, put massive infrastructure in the form of the Ghana Education Trust schools all over the North, as many of them as possible. Two, the Northerners who had left school and were teachers could go back to the only secondary school in the North, which was the Tamale Secondary School, and start from Form 4 and continue their education. Then all Northerners who were in secondary schools in the South, or the only secondary school in the North, they were to be catered for from this money that was to be put aside. If any Northerner traveled to the UK on scholarship, that money was to be part of this money that was set aside. It was to be used to cater for them.
Robert Ajeni has worked as an educationist for 36 years. He played leading roles in the establishment of the University of Education, Winneba, and the Bolgatanga Polytechnic. He also once worked as the Regional Director of Education, a position that offered him a lot of experience in school management systems. In the earlier parts of his career, Mr. Ajeni headed several senior secondary schools in the Upper East region and therefore got to be part of the implementation of the Northern Special Scholarship Scheme.
So it was a positive, and it was something, I would say, worth doing.
Okay. Would you say then that as the years progressed, something went wrong with this policy?
It was going on very well.
Did it degenerate?
It didn't degenerate. That is why I said I was surprised that in 1981, one parliamentarian raised it in Parliament that since Liman had become a president, then the North probably was educationally provided, and that scheme should stop. The scheme that made this man a president should stop. But with a lot of argument here and there, it didn't stop, and it continued to today. It was then from that point where somebody, the person who was arguing, would tell us, should we stop because we had produced a president, or that the money was finished, or that there was a time frame? All these are hanging blurred. But the important thing is nobody has been able to prove that that money is finished, even as we sit today talking.
Bismarck Ayorogo is the president of the Northern Patriots in Research and Advocacy, NOPRA. He benefited from the Northern Special Scholarship Scheme as a student between 1992 and 1994.
Okay. For instance, I benefited a lot from the Northern Scholarship in secondary school, in the sense that I'm from a very, very poor background. My parents couldn't have afforded to pay fees if they hadn't been because of the Northern Scholarship. My parents couldn't have afforded to take care of other things that the scholarship took care of, like feeding. So I personally benefited a lot from that. And if my parents were supposed to pay for accommodation and other things, definitely I wouldn't have seen the four corners of a classroom so far as senior secondary school education is concerned.
Today, Bismarck and his organization are constantly advocating for the smooth and continuous implementation of the Northern Special Scholarship Scheme. Bismarck thinks that the scheme is no longer working as effectively as expected.
The feeding grants were almost coming, all the time coming in good time. But as we speak, successive governments, whether the immediate past NDC government or the present government, feeding grants to second cycle institutions is always a very big challenge. As I'm talking to you, the 2016-2017 academic year, government of Ghana is still owing these schools in northern Ghana 2 consecutive terms. The second term and then the third term feeding grants to second cycle institutions in northern Ghana have not yet been paid. So as a result of this, we know anytime there is schools open, those in southern Ghana will be in school, but those of us in northern Ghana, we will have to stay back a week or 2 or even at times more.
Robert Ajeni admits that the Northern Special Scholarship Scheme has over the years suffered a lot of functional difficulties in implementation. He says the delays in the payment of subventions have seriously affected education in the Upper East region.
I would say it was working, but if I say currently, no, because there are attempts to stop it. Number 2, most, if not all of the schools open late because they always wait for the money to come, it doesn't come. And this is where, excuse me, that government should have now been bold to come and say that the money I'm giving you now is Ghana government money. That money is finished.
The Northern Special Scholarship Scheme is on its knees because today parents and guardians have to find hundreds of Ghana cedis to pay all manner of fees anytime their wards in senior high school have to go to school. Poverty is endemic in the Upper East region, so a few families are able to afford the cost of senior high school education for their children. Dr. Yin Nyaya is one of few people who are successful in his extended family. He has the heavy burden of paying the school fees of many children in his extended family.
I've just supported my close family, 3 people through the SS. The average fee, including looking after the child, the first day came to over 1,200, and that is not easy. For one child. The average house in Zanelgo or in the Nabda area or the Fafra area, they don't even have up to 2 cows. A cow is not worth 600 cedis. So how are ordinary people able to cater for their wards in school?
He believes that free senior high school education will lift financial burdens off many parents and give opportunity to many students who otherwise could drop out of school.
It will bring a lot of relief, not even to parents, but to some of us. It will bring quite a lot of relief in the sense that the pressure will not be there, to pay school fees. It is important that there should be, like the government have said, that 30% of the very good schools of the intake should go to public schools. I think that is also a very good idea. It should even increase to something like 40%, and then
It is expected that free senior high school would lead to serious congestions and other problems relating to the lack of infrastructure and limited resources in some of the second cycle institutions. At the Boko Technical Institute, for example, a problem of congestion has led to the students having to take turns to go to the dining hall for their meals. The school authorities have also converted a workshop into a dormitory.
The house was not meant for students to stay there. It was a workshop which is now converted as a house, and we are staying in it. And we are suffering because the house condition is not good for us to stay in it. And sometimes when it is raining, because of the nature of the house, water is coming inside. So
Retired educationist Robert Ajeni does not agree with a school of thought that suggests that the free senior high school policy should be put on hold until infrastructure at the various schools are expanded.
In the history of educational development, I would disagree with that. If that was what we were looking for, today the Bolga Polytechnic would not be there. Even the University of Ghana would not be there. It started from a training college. You see, that is a negative way of looking at things. That if I want to build my house and the house costs 10,000, I must put 10,000 in my hand before I start. I will not agree with any Ghanaian who would think in that way. That is why we see.
For him, the main lesson that implementers of free senior high school should draw from the Northern Special Scholarship Scheme is the need to depoliticize the policy so that everyone can embrace and support it, irrespective of the political party in power. For Joy News, Albert Sori, reporting from Bolgatanga.
And that's our agenda for today, put together by Albert Sori, our colleague who did this extensive report for us. Thanks, Albert, and we hope that we've incorporated lessons learned in this going forward with this free SHS policy that we have. Let's read more of your messages that you've been sending to us. This one says, why is the free SHS program not allowing headmasters to admit students who had completed 2 years ago? Daniel from Aplao asking that question. This one says, my sister completed JHS 2015 and had grade 23, but because of financial problems, she wasn't able to enter any SHS till now. How can she make it to join the free SHS this year? Lots of comments that you've sent. This one says, government schools will collapse in a few months and free SHS will stop in the next year. Because you think the NPP is still doing propaganda. Well, but I thought that Rashid Tikuma from Tamale, I thought we all agree that we're going to support this policy. It's probably gone beyond NPP and any other political. It's a national policy now, so the earlier we all put our hands together on it and make it work, I think the better for all of us. So let's make it work. This one says GS should also talk about the newly trained teachers. And an earlier message says, okay, we get you. Thanks for the nice things you say about us. Honorable Diane Nalerugu, Northern Ghana. That's where you are. You're sending this message from, and we're grateful. Divine also sends a comment. Divine Dalasi, Police Training School, Paul Lugu says, let's make sure our mental homes are expanded before the legalization of marijuana. So this is coming from the paper review this morning, and that conversation about commercializing marijuana. This one says, why is the private schools not included in the free senior high school policy? Piccolo from Volta sending that message. This one says, my name is Elder Peter. I want to know whether is it free SHS you're asking will be going back to the 4-year system, as in the senior high schools will be going back to the 4-year system. This one says, my daughter was placed in a school in Kumasi as a day student. I live in a village of BA and I don't have any means to accommodate her in Kumasi. How can such a child access free SHS? Please ask the appropriate authority for a solution on our behalf. Yao Nkrumah Dudoso BA sending us this message. Well, we're still hopeful that we can have a conversation with the GES so we can pass all these questions that you're asking in the comments to them for, you know, what they have to say on that. But let's read more messages, and the messages are touching on bits and pieces of everything that we've been discussing from the beginning of the show, particularly when we're doing the review segment. This one says, hey, this is a personal question to Roland, and I'm going to ask him, God willing, on Monday. This one says the National Identification Authority should ensure an effective and complete work done for all registered Ghanaians to get their IDs this time around. Unfortunately, I couldn't get my ID even after registering. Those who had theirs saw a change of their names. Too bad. Kojo Ejiri Mills in Asing Fosu, and Kojo is sending this message because if you were following the review segment, then you would know that on the front page of the Finder newspaper, for instance, it's been said that the National Identification Authority was going to present the president with his ID card. There's a new one that's being done, and the rest of us will follow. I think if not in October, then that will be in November. But the first gentleman gets his as president of the country today. This one says 2013 to 2015 teachers. Okay, so I asked for more details when Y. Abdullah sent a message that some teachers were still being, you know, there were arrears to settle. So now you're giving me more details, and I appreciate that. So I'll have that at the back of my mind, and we're going to follow through with that. Let's read a few more of your messages, and then we will take a breather and join Roland Walker, who is at the CDD's office here in Accra. This one says, my student has been placed at the, there you go. Kindly do not call the numbers, just for text messages. My student has been placed at St. Charles Minor Seminary School, High School. He wrote their entrance exam and passed, but he reported a couple of days ago but was sent away with the reason that the school was full up. Kindly help me establish links with the appropriate authorities to address his concern. He's since crying till now and has refused food from Waja in Saboba, sending us that message. Okay, so one or two more. This one is on the NIA, the cards, okay, the new identification card says, can one get a new ID card from NIA today? Well, not speaking from the authority, but no, you are not the first gentleman of the land, so no. We all get to do ours in maybe a month or two, I think. This one says, you need some form of assistance badly. Okay, I think I've read yours. That has to do with the St. Charles Minor Seminary Senior High School. And how your child got admission, came back, and then they said the place was full. Okay, so more messages that you're sending. Really appreciate that. I'm going to make time and read all of them, but we've got to take a breather. You're watching the AM show. Stay with us.